Rashad, why you didn't
Anyways,
hit me up?
What's up, Rashad? Hey, Rashad.
What's up, Rashad?
Thank you, Rashad.
brother, I love you, brother. Trump lit.
What's up, Rashad?
Yeah.
What it do, boy?
Hey, Rashad.
Grok or Grok, however you pronounce it. The YouTube AI machine SSB was handing. Welcome back, SSB. Grok, the AI machine that's on Twitter where you can plug it in. Grok, what does this mean? Grok, can you do a Photoshop picture of so and so on the XXL freshman cover? You know, everything like that, right? I seen someone say every time y'all put something into Grok, it's causing cancer and asthma to the residents of Memphis, and I think it was like Jackson, Mississippi. And I was like, what? So I looked it up. And lo and behold, this story from Political comes up from like a month ago. And another story about Grok came up on some other website. I believe it was Yahoo today. But how come I can't breathe? Musk data company draws a backlash in Memphis. The company's turbines, enough to power 280,000 homes, run without emission controls in an area that leads Tennessee in asthma hospitalizations. Yep, this was published on May 6, 2025. It was written by Ariel Wittenberg. Shout out to Ariel Wittenberg. Memphis, Tennessee. Elon Musk's artificial intelligence company is belching smog-forming pollution into an area of South Memphis that already leads the state in emergency department visits for asthma. None of the 35 methane gas turbines that help power xAI's massive supercomputer is equipped with pollution that controls typically required by federal rules. The company has no Clean Air Act permits. Oh no. In just 11 months since the company arrived in Memphis, xAI has become one of Shelby County's largest emitters of smog-producing nitrogen oxides, according to the calculations by environmental groups whose data has been reviewed by Political's E&E News. The plant is in an area whose air is already considered unhealthy due to smog. The turbines spew nitrogen oxides, such as NOx, at an estimated rate of 1,200 to 2,000 tons a year. Oh my gosh. Far more than the gas-fired power plants across the street or the oil refinery down the road. That's according to the calculations by the Southern Environmental Law Center, a nonpartisan legal advocacy group that focuses on the South, which used turbine manufacturer spec sheets to estimate xAI's annual emissions and compare them with the pollution that other South Memphis plants have reported to the Environmental Protection Agency National Emissions Inventory. The turbines were necessary to get the third version of the company's AI chatbot up and running in time. Musk said that the products launched in February, adding, quote unquote, we have generators on one side of the building, just trailer after trailer of generators until we get the utility power to come on. He has not publicly addressed the pollution concerns and did not respond to requests for comment about turbines powering the plant and their lack of pollution controls. Just 3 miles away in Boxtown, a secluded neighborhood that officially became a part of the city of Memphis in 1968, the year that the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. was unalived at the Lorraine Motel downtown. While the annexation had become the promise of connecting Boxtown to municipal utilities, many homes still had no running water or sewage as late as the 1970s. Today, more than 90% of the residents living in Boxtown zip code are Black, with the median household of $36,000. Goshly, according to the Census Bureau. It's also home to more than 17 industrial facilities, some of which share an industrial park with xAI that release enough toxic pollution to require registration with the EPA's toxics release inventory. I can't breathe at home. It smells like gas outside. Oh my goodness. Wow. Boxtown resident Alexis Humphreys said through tears, holding up her asthma inhaler during a public hearing meeting about the turbines on April 25th. How come I can't breathe at home and y'all get to breathe at home? Jeez Louise. Together, the turbines produce enough energy to power 280,000 homes. xAI has been relying on them because the data processing centers voracious appetite for energy has outpaced electric utilities' ability to serve it. The turbines are only temporary and don't require federal permits for their emissions of the NOx and other hazardous air pollutants such as formaldehyde, xAI's environmental consultant Shannon Lin said during a webinar hosted by Memphis Chamber of Commerce, the arguments appears to rely on the loophole and federal regulations that environmental groups and former EPA officials say shouldn't apply to the situation. In January, facing pressure from the neighbors and environmental groups, xAI applied for permits for 15 of its turbines, which says it will be permanent. Oh my goodness. But Lynn said the company will wait until the application is approved before it installs the pollution controls on the turbines it keeps on site. That installation, quote unquote, will make xAI the lowest emitting facility in the country. The company's local representative, Brent Mayo, said at a permit hearing about the turbines. Mayo and Lynn didn't respond to calls and texts from Politico's E&E News requesting comment and have not publicly said how much longer the quote-unquote temporary turbines will remain outside. Musk did not respond to a request for comment. The strategy violates the Clean Air Act, argued Bruce Buckett, who formerly directed EPA's air enforcement division. At a minimum, he said the turbines that will remain on site should have pollution controls from the start, quote unquote. There needs to be a permit beforehand, he said. You don't just get that the year for free. Goodness gracious, this is the Memphis xAI showdown could become the national test for artificial intelligence, which demands more electricity than regular internet searches to complete even simple tasks. Utilities across the country have struggled to keep up with the electricity demands of quote unquote hyper users like data centers, which are often left to find their own power sources behind the meter. The Trump administration, while allowing Musk's Department of Government Efficiency to eliminate programs dedicated to reducing the disproportionate amount of pollution in communities of color, has also vowed to support artificial intelligence. Before EPA said it would fire or reassign more than 450 employees working on environmental justice initiatives late last month, the agency listed making quote unquote the United States the artificial intelligence capital of the world, quote unquote, among 5 agency priorities, quote unquote, that will guide EPA's work, end quote. EPA has also issued new guidance easing pollution rules for some internal combustion engines commonly used by data centers. Quote unquote, data centers are highly competitive space, and the other companies are watching what xAI does, said Amanda Garcia, senior attorney for the SELC, which has advocated for data centers to use more renewable energy to reduce their pollution and draw from the grid. Right now, what xAI is doing is essentially running a power plant without a permit, and it has a real risk of harming people. How is this allowed? xAI's main product is Musk's chatbot Grok, which also generates images. It has become known for having fewer user guardrails than other artificial intelligence programs like ChatGPT, which often prevents users from requesting images that violate copyright standards or are deemed as insensitive. Grok allows users to use deepfakes, predicting things like Mickey Mouse wearing a Nazi uniform. Musk has called it, quote unquote, the most fun AI in the world. Oh, they killing Elon Musk in this story. Boxtown residents say that they have been paying for their images with their health. Jeez Louise. Excuse me. At a public hearing on xAI permits at Fairleigh High School on April 25th, multiple residents described cases of asthma and cancer in their families. They attribute to air pollution, asking for the Shelby County Department of Health to deny xAI's permit and shut down all of the turbines. Many have health conditions such as asthma and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease that predate xAI's arrival in South Memphis, but NOx emissions are known to worsen lung conditions, and residents fear that the sheer volume released by xAI will further harm their health. Some, like Humphreys, showed that inhalers and portable oxygen tanks as proof of the damage. Many see xAI as the latest example of Memphis's designating their community as a quote-unquote sacrifice zone, said Keyshawn Pearson, who leads the nonprofit Memphis Community Against Pollution. Both his grandmothers died of cancers in their 60s, and Pearson blames pollution for both of their deaths. It's amazing when you grow up and realize how redlining has allowed these industries to kill your family, he said in an interview. Elon Musk is a representation of the oligarchy we already knew was operating under Jim Crow. It's a familiar evil. Elvis is in the building. The Greater Memphis Chamber of Commerce heralds xAI's arrival as a success. an organization dedicated to the economic development. The chamber actively courted xAI last spring. Its president, Ted Townsend, said in an interview, but the decision about where to host the supercomputer powering Musk company came down to electricity. Colossus, as Musk calls it, contained more than 100,000 computer chips at a time, demanded 150 megawatts of power. Townsend and the head of Memphis Light, Gas, and Water signed non-disclosure agreements with xAI in private meetings, helped the company craft a plan, Townsend said to Political's E&E News in an interview. They directed xAI to a former oven factory vacated just a couple years prior that was already equipped with a gas hookup and substation that could immediately supply AMW power. During the meetings, the utility agreed to support xAI's request for 150 MW, which would need the approval for the Tennessee Valley Authority's board of directors. Quote unquote, the AI race is just that. It's a race, Townsend said. So expediting and building out infrastructure as quickly as possible in this most appropriate ways within the lines of regulations and laws. That is how we have been instructed and guided. The Memphis utility declined to make its president, Doug McCowan, available for an interview or an answer written questions about xAI's power supply, referring all comment requests to the Chamber of Commerce. Left out of negotiations was the Memphis City Council, the county committee, the county board of commissioners, and the TVA, whose board ultimately had to approve any request for more than 100 MW of power. They have also learned about the deal in early June after the deal was done, when Musk announced it with a post on X referencing Memphis' illustrious music history. Quote unquote, Elvis is in the building. Terrible. Almost immediately after becoming public, the deal sparked concerns about how xAI's power use would affect Memphis residents. As recently in 2022, high demand during winter storms have forced TVA to undergo rolling blackouts on some of the coldest days. Memphis Light, Gas, Water officials told the public not to worry, saying xAI had brought its own gas generators to power the data center before TVA board voted on the power request. The company could also rely on turbines when the authority called on industrial users to reduce their draw during times on high demand. Typically, stationary gas turbines need permits before they can be turned on due to the levels of NOx and other pollutants they generate. The permitting process helps ensure that emitters use technology to limit air pollution. There have been more stringent guidelines for NOx emissions in an already smoggy area like Shelby County. Smog, a mixture of gases and chemicals, can exuberate lung diseases such as asthma and increase hospital visits. Other data centers have sought permits for the same make and model of gas turbines used by xAI before beginning construction. But in August, the Shelby County Health Department said that it has not issued any permits for the turbines, writing in a letter to the EPA, had agreed that the department does, quote unquote, not currently have the authority regarding those mobile gas burning turbines, end quote, because they were only temporary. The letter included a copy of the request that the department director, Michelle Taylor, had made to the EPA earlier that month, saying that, quote unquote, a statement acknowledging mobile source gas powered turbines do not require a local Title V permit until they have remained in the same location for more than 364 days would be an advantageous to all parties concerned. The explanation didn't make sense to the SELC's Garcia. The health department seemed to be referencing an exemption in law for smaller gas generators like those used to power asphalt crushers to road projects. But Garcia said the turbines at xAI were big enough and generated enough electricity that they would instead have had to obtain permits at stationary sources, even if they were portable. The SELCs told the health department as much as in multiple letters, but neither Shelby County nor xAI had cited a legal argument for why turbines should be exempt. Locals feared Memphis had become yet another example of Musk companies pushing fast-paced development while disregarding environmental regulations. There was Tesla, which in 2021 was cited for 33 air quality violations in California. SpaceX, which has been fined in Texas for allegedly dumping industrial wastewater without a permit, and Musk's underground tunneling business, the Boring Company, which had also been fined in Texas for failing to get a permit to discharge industrial stormwater. Since August, the number of gas turbines at the xAI site has not only grown, with the information only to come to light after the community pushback. Memphis Light, Gas, and Water Chambers officials initially suggested last summer that there were 18 turbines of varying sizes, but then when xAI filled the permit application in January, it listed 15 machines at 16 MW each. Then, at the end of March, the environmental group flew over the facility and came back with aerial photos showing 35 turbines on site. Memphis Mayor Paul Young defended the company, saying that there were only 15 were actually running and that the rest were just for backup, because that's better. But in late April, environmental groups sent a plane with thermal cameras to fly over the facility and found 33 turbines giving off significant amounts of heat, a sign that they were also generating electricity and pollution. Quote unquote, the way that they have to come into the city, it's like, oh, you think they were unintelligent. You think these people in these communities aren't able to comprehend what you are doing and what it will take to assault on our health lying down, 15-year-old Boxtown resident Jasmine Bernard said. Young did not respond to an interview request. Lynn, the environmental consultant listed on xAI's permit application, also did not respond to emails and phone calls for comment. He did speak at a webinar hosted by the Chamber of Commerce in late April to answer community concerns about turbines. Lynn didn't disclose his connection to xAI during the webinar and was introduced as only, quote unquote, an expert who brings decades of experience on environmental compliance issues. In a webinar, Lynn said that xAI did not need air permits for 35 turbines already on site because, quote unquote, there's rules that say temporary sources can be in place for up to 364 days a year. They are not subject to permitting requirements. If a permit was approved, only 7 of those current turbines will remain on site, and they will be retrofitted with selective catalytic reduction pollution controls that will limit NOx pollution to 2 parts per million. By contrast, that make and model of turbine emits NOx at a rate of 9 parts per million, while emission from other models of turbine on site can be as high as 25 parts per million, according to their manufacturers. Another 8 turbines, also with pollution controls, will be bought in. Quote unquote, that's why they're filing a permit, because you have to have a permit for a stationary source. The other 28 turbines currently on site are, quote unquote, temporary, he said, and will be slowly moved out as xAI completes work building 2 substations. But the timeline for that is unclear because only one of the substations has received the required approval of the TVA board. Townsend, the Chamber of Commerce president, said he doesn't know what the xAI's timeline is. How does the country know? The SELC says that xAI's turbines are too large to take advantage of the temporary permit and loophole and should be regulated as stationary sources of pollution, even if they are technically portable. John Walk, a former attorney in the EPA's Office of General Counsel, who now works in the Natural Resource of Defense Council, agrees that all turbines require stationary source permits. xAI's position is quite suspect. I mean, they're huge, he said. The temporary or not temporary argument is irrelevant. Neither Walk or Buckhead, the former EPA enforcement official, is involved in the case. Buckhead says that at a minimum, the 7 turbines that will remain on site should have had a permit before they were running. The health department, he said, should have asked for proof up front that xAI's turbines would have been removed within a year before accepting the company's position that they were temporary. It's been many months, unless they are going to be shutting them down soon, and they will have violated the law, he said. How does the country know that they are going to be done within a year? Does the country care? It's not clear what steps Shelby County took in determining that the turbine didn't require permits or when that decision was made. Townsend maintained that the health department, quote unquote, was involved from day one. Taylor, the health department director, declined the interview request, but has publicly implied that she was also left in the dark. At an April meeting hearing, Taylor said her office became aware of the turbines when the SELC asked for a copy of the air permit. She said that she wanted to remind, quote unquote, everybody in the room to engage in the Shelby Health Department early regarding new progress. projects so that we could look into what the environmental impacts will be. Quote unquote. If we do not know something is coming, we cannot do the research, she said. Shelby County Health Department cannot assist with projects it is not aware of at its inception. All very important to President Trump. EPA's role is also unclear. The health department had a brief consultation with the EPA in early August on the matter, during which the health department says federal regulator agreed that the decision not to require a permit on the turbines. But last November, EPA Region 4 Air and Radiation Director Denise Diaz wrote to Taylor saying that although the agency's understanding was that quote unquote turbines are expected to cease operations in a few months, it will conduct a more formal review process to confirm. She also suggested that the county set up air monitoring to confirm emissions from the turbines. That hasn't happened. Quote unquote, the EPA will need more specific information about the generator units operating at the xAI site, says the letter obtained by E&E News. The letter was sent just days before the presidential election. EPA spokesperson Molly Vaslu said the agency is reviewing a quote-unquote request for assistance from Shelby County. Since taking office in January, the Trump administration has also made efforts to boost the nation's beguiling artificial intelligence industry. Vaslu said her agency is quote-unquote eager to work with AI leaders as it begins to work to streamline permitting and regulations that will help accelerate American data center development. She added that the EPA is, quote unquote, looking forward to working with AI leaders as it begins to roll back some 31 pollution limiting regulations announced in March. EPA is moved to relax pollution rules limiting how long reciprocating internal combustion engines can run without a permit as one to help boost AI. The engines are commonly used to produce to power pumps and compressors in power and manufacturing plants, often during emergency events. New EPA guidance would also allow some of those engines to operate for up to 50 hours per year outside of their emergencies. In a move, it is billing as the quote unquote first and certainly not the last step to ensuring data centers and utilities have reliable power. EPA Administrator Lee Zetlin himself vowed that to support AI while quote unquote unleashing American energy dominance. In an appearance on Fox News shortly after the massive rollback was announced. Quote unquote, these are all very important to President Trump, so they are very important to me, he said. xAI's Mayo reposted a clip of the interview on X adding preach. Crazy. Powering the recent surge of data centers has become a struggle for utilities nationwide due to supercomputers' massive energy requirements and related to strain on the electric grid. Most utilities typically offer electricity to commercial users at discount rates in recognition of their high demand and economic impact industrial users can have on the community. But data centers have a vocarious appetite for power and create comparatively for few jobs, leading some utilities to consider higher rates for quote-unquote hyper users. That includes the TVA board, which was planning to consider new rates for data centers, including xAI, at its May board meeting, but the board can no longer approve resolutions after President Donald Trump fired two of his members. Considerations of the data center measure has been postponed, TVA spokesperson Scott Brooks said. The White House did not respond to a request for comment. The proliferation of the data centers has also contributed to the gas turbine shortage as utilities look to power up generations to serve supercomputers as other companies like xAI to turn to producing their own electricity. xAI's demand for power has only grown since it came to Memphis last June, After months of tests, Colossus came fully online in September. That same day, Musk posted on X that it will, quote unquote, double the number of computer chips on site to 200,000 in a few months. He said that Colossus will require 2,000 MW to power its expansion. So far, TVA has only approved xAI's initial request to 150 MW. It's 15 turbines. It wants to produce 420 or more. In October, xAI asked Memphis Light Gas and Water to study the possibilities of supplying an additional 260 MW through the substation on another swath of land xAI recently leased in South Memphis. but the substation can't be built until TVA approves sending electricity to it, which could take months. It will, quote unquote, be the most powerful training cluster in the world, Musk said of the expansion in February while announcing the latest iteration of Grok. We are not stopping here. Our lungs on the auction block. For residents of Boxtown in South Memphis, xAI's arrival was a setback after a series of recent environmental victories. 2 years ago, local opposition stopped a planned 50-mile oil pipeline plan to run from South Memphis, Valerio refinery through and around neighborhoods like Boxtown. It was meant to be the key final piece of a 1,000-mile plan to bring North Dakota crude to the Gulf Coast for export, but it was stopped after the city council passed a law to restrict development. Then in April, a medical sterilization plant had been emitting carcinogenic ethylene oxide closed after decades of residents blaming it to cause high cancer rates in the area. The Memphis Chamber of Commerce support of xAI and Turbine's lack of permits felt like betrayal to many in the community. Quote unquote, they put our lungs and our air on the auction block and sold us to the richest man in the world, said State Representative Justin Pearson, a Democrat, and Keyshawn Pearson's brother, said at a protest in late April. At the permit hearing, shout out to Justin Pearson, a friend of the channel, Taylor said city zoning laws and historical racism were really to blame for the sheer number of polluters in South Memphis. She showed of a slide of a zoning map next to the redlining map that the real estate lenders used in the 1930s to restrict investment in majority Black neighborhoods. Right now, we are still using the 1953 zoning map to make zoning decisions, and it looks very much like the 1930s redlining map, she said. There are several levels of government responsible for what those maps look like. More industry could be coming soon. Since the landing, xAI, the Memphis Chamber, has rebranded the city as a quote-unquote digital Delta, and chip manufacturer Nvidia, as well as Dell and Supermicro, has expressed interest in coming to the Bluff City, according to the Chamber and xAI. We've established the efficiency, the partnership, and really the culture of quote-unquote yes that we were able to get for what you need and really provide for our community, Townsend said. Companies don't need residents' permission to locate the industry to South Memphis, he said, quote unquote, as long as they are going through the correct process of permitting. Quote unquote, it doesn't always require a community to say, well, we are okay with that or we are not, he said. It's a capitalistic thing. Companies come in and they operate. Driving past xAI in April, a loud, high-pitched buzzing filled in the air coming from dozens of turbines that line on the side of the building, which is as large as 13 football fields. The air above the semi-trailer sized turbines seemed to shimmer as heat escaped along with the products of burning methane gas. Someone was in the hallway. Just a few minutes away, a sidewalk-free streets of Boxtown had an almost rural feel. Peppered with the modest homes and surrounded by leafy trees, Boxtown is in a sleepy neighborhood until chemical and sewage smells waft over the industrial park. Sitting in a neighbor's garden, a few residents debated what to make of the world's richest man, his turbines, and their community. That the latest pollution in their neighborhood was coming from a company owned by Musk added insult to the injury of Sarah Gadney. If he's the richest man in the world, buy this whole community up, make us millionaires, pave those streets with gold. She joked. But Easter May Knox shook her head. The 74-year-old with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease lowered her KN95 mask she wore to protect herself from the pollution. He may be a millionaire, billionaire, whatever kind of air he is, she said. But what we need is clean air. Sad, bro. Sad. All of these words, this whole, I think that was like 30 minutes of me reading. Yeah. Rashad ran a marathon reading this 100%. This is all coming back to like billionaires put in Black lives at risk for the sake of AI, for people to make memes and all of those things on Twitter, now known as X. Crazy, bro. Crazy, dog. I'm not even gonna lie to you. AI data centers are a step towards gentrification 100%. LO, he has a fallout with Trump and has lost protection Data centers need water, cheap land, and resources to run. A lot of these investors use data center almost as a real estate investment company's money was ran through and their environment was infected. The South and the Midwest were getting a lot of these data centers because of the abundance of water. I know some semiconductor data chips reuse the water, but I'm not sure what Elon is doing. Flip said, let's see how long Musk protects last long. Wait, let's see how long Musk protect last long. That now Musk and Trump are not friends, and how the EPA may found some of these problems. The power grid. So you're gonna say they're gonna be like the federal government's gonna wake up and be like, "Hey, we need to protect the black people of Memphis," and then Trump's gonna be like, "I've done the most for the black community." SSB said the power grid also needs to be upgraded for a tech grid across the country to work. The whole situation feels like corruption. That's insane. How did this happen? Money. How long is this article, bro? Crazy. It was crazy. Rashad running a marathon reading this. I had no idea how long it was. The only thing that was keeping me going was thinking about Cory Booker reading in the little chamber for like what 40 hours or whatever he did, like something crazy like that. I was like, if Cory Booker can do it for 40 hours, I could do this for 30 minutes. Local and state elections should have prevented this from occurring. Nah, I don't know if that was going to prevent it, Nate. They said the local government, they said the city council, none of them knew about it. The health department didn't know about it. You got $1 billion. You could crazy, right? Tech bros are comparing AI development to China, who has no regulations. Crazy. You know, everybody got to wear a mask in China. In 2025, people don't give a F about regulations. F your health, F the environment. They probably take energy that could have been used for hospitals, schools, etc. It's sad, embarrassing. Yeah, man. Honestly, this whole thing, a green thing, is a scam. EVs use more oil and resources to make the car compared to a regular car, though not paying gas is a plus. They knew money was being thrown at them. Yeah, EVs, the whole gas thing with EVs, bro, like they die so quickly, dog. Like you run them for a couple hours and it's like, you know, you can go to the gas station, you fill up gas in 30 seconds. A supercharging station is going to take a minimum of 30 minutes to an hour, bro. Like that's crazy, dog. I ain't about to sit no 30 minutes just to go to the grocery store. What? And you can't do no road trips in them. I can't go an hour down the road and come back. I'm good with that, bro. They got to figure that out before I make the switch to EVs. All right. But yeah, like Nate said, Memphis knew the money that was thrown to them. This is a poor black community, South Memphis. And they was like, oh, billionaire want to come in. Hey, man. Don't even tell this to the health department, my brother. Go about your way. Thank you for the $100 million. That's insane, dog. And doing it to black families, you know what I'm saying? Older black women dying now of cancer, and, you know, younger black people with asthma. And it's sad. It's sad indeed. I'm just clearing out some tabs and everything like that before we get to the rest of the stream today. Stream tonight. Man, we started off with a marathon, won't it? Elon definitely paid off the politicians. You get it, SSB and Nate. The sad reality is that most of those reps get voted in those areas. Yeah, man. It just is what it is. All right. Let's get to some music influencer news.
Rashad, why you didn't hit me up?
What's up, Rashad? Hey, Rashad.
What's up, Rashad?
Thank you, Rashad.
Brother, I love you, brother.
What's up, Rashad? What it do, boy?
Hey, Rashad.